Alright, so today we're going to look at the Moodle, and I hope you did bring your electronic version of your essay. I asked you, if you remember on Friday, to bring that on your USB, because what we're going to do, we're going to look at vocabulary profiling and readability of your essay. So it's under writing, and about a dozen points down. We'll go to the profiler first, the vocabulary profiler. What it will do, as I mentioned, it will analyse the frequency of your vocabulary in your essay. And there are, now you can see there it says vocabulary profilers, the classic. There's the classic profiler, which is the first one that was invented, and then there's a BNC 20. So we'll look at both of these. Pretty sure the fellow called Paul Nation did a lot of work on these. I don't think he actually constructed the website, but they're based on a lot of his data. You know, the academic word list, Avril Coxhead. She works with Paul Nation at the University of Wellington in New Zealand. They're a bit of a centre for vocabulary research. So if we go to that link, what I'll do is, if everyone's now logged on, Rena, are you logged on?
Yep.
Good. Then I'll just refresh and we'll try using the display, and we'll also see it up here. 3, 2, 1. Seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's this one here. Vocabulary profiler, under writing, the classic vocabulary profiler. If we go there, we get this. And Eileen. Oh, here's the first star.
Is this started now?
Okay.
It's beautiful. Look at you.
Now, if we, you can see several resources here. And there it is, Paul Nation, Laufer and Nation's original one. So we're going to go to the original first. VP, Vocabulary Profile Classic. It's a Canadian website. It's a simple address, www.lextutor.ca. Lex comes from Lexis, which means words, vocabulary. So LexTutor. The whole site's concerned with developing vocabulary. So if we go here, the VP Classic, we'll look at this other one here in a minute, but you get this sort of thing. So as it says, type or paste your text here and click submit. That's what we'll do. It will tell you how many words the text contains from the following 4 frequency levels. The first 1,000 words in English, the second 1,000, the academic word list, and words that are off the list. So I'm just going to click in there and go Control A, right, select all and then just delete it. So clear the box. And I'm just going to select, so I go back here, I've just gone and got an essay. I have mentioned this essay before. One of the great essays of all time by Magdalene and Foster, What Every Environmentalist Needs to Know About Capitalism. These two professors, we've looked at this before. That's just a bit of intro. I'll get the actual essay. Here we go. The Planetary Economic Crisis. It's long, I'm not going to take it all. But obviously the more I take, the more kind of accurate the assessment. It's like a bigger sample size, isn't it? So we'll take a few pages here. 7, but I think I didn't get the first 2, so it's about 5 pages. Probably about the size of your essay. So I'm just copying that text, and we'll go to that one I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Paste. So there's several thousand words in there, I think 2 or 3. There is a maximum, what is it, 35,000 words, yeah. You'll still be able to write your masters and put it in there, no worries. All right, submit. Okay, so we see that 73% of the words in this text are the first 1,000 words of English. Not actually that high, usually it's a bit higher. Second 1,000, see how much it drops off, that's pretty normal. Roughly, I'll just round these figures off, 7%. So we're up to 80% of the text, the first 2,000 words of English. Academic word list is interesting, only 6. Yeah, kind of lowish, because I've said before an academic text is usually about 8 to 10. That's usually the range. However, the words that are beyond that is pretty high, 13.89. So there are a lot of words here that are not in the first 2,000 and not academic word list, you know, so it's got quite high vocabulary. Now what's happened there? Normally you get this figure here. That's a pity. For some reason we're not getting it. I'll try it in a minute with another one. For some reason I'm not getting this figure. What this is over here, Anglo-Saxon, so there's your Germanic. Think of the Chaucer poem the other day. Very Anglo-Saxon, isn't it? Very Germanic words. So in other words, as I've said before, your simple words are mainly Germanic. Greek and Latin, more your scientific, intellectual words. So you can often see your proportions there, and that's worth having a look at. Because what you often see with normal writing is about 70-30, and academic writing is about 60-40. I'll just say those figures again. So average writing is usually about 70-30, so you've got 70% of Germanic words. Lots of academic text, and unfortunately we're not getting a figure here, I don't know, malfunction or something. You tend to see less Germanic and more Greek and Latin words, and French. Right? I mean, Latin and French are pretty similar, they're coming from the same historical source. So what that means is you're using more what I generally just call Latin words, you know, in the text. So it'll give you a sense of what you're doing with your vocabulary there. Now, if we go down a little bit, here's the text, and you can see each word highlighted according to its level. So all the blue ones are the common ones. They're your first 1,000 words. The green are the 1,000 to 2,000. The yellow, that's the academic words, academic word list words. And the red are those beyond. Okay. So you can get a sense of exactly which words you were using in your essay from the academic word list. Now if we go down further, it's quite long. We will get to the end eventually. That's a bit too long. Okay, now what we get, of the first 0 to 1,000, alphabetical order, that's how many times A was used, and able was used only once, and about was used, 5 times, four times, etc. And so it gives you that breakdown.
Look at in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
The number.
yeah. So they're obviously doing a lot of talk about quantity, aren't they? That's why they're getting the word number, of, million ofs. Okay, now then it breaks down the first 1,000 into your first 500 and the second 500. Okay, here's the next band, 1,000 to 2,000, and there are the academic words. Now, what it does, quite a nice little thing it does, it breaks down into sub-list. So, of the academic word list, those are the words this person's used in sub-list 1, 2, 3, and of course what we would expect is a declining amount, and we do see that. So, you can see, if you put your essay in, you'll be able to see
7.
Yeah, interesting. Sub is 7. Simply because they're using chemical a lot and decades a lot in global. That's what pushes 7 out, because they're repeating that word a lot. There's the off list, and there's a lot of off list. And the next profiler we'll look at will break this off list down into more useful categories. You know, just seeing one big lot of advanced words like that, it's not that helpful. But this was the first time they produced this profiler. Okay, the next analysis. If you can see what's happening there, great. If you'd like to look over, if you've come in late, just look over somebody's shoulder at the their screen if it helps see something clearer. Okay, the type simply means, remember A, we saw A. What they do here is a bit simpler. A, 59 times. Able once, about 4, and so on, right? So it's a quicker and easier way of breaking it down. Same thing again, the various bands. They don't break up the academic word list into sub-list here. And then the off-list words, how many times they've been used. Okay, family is a bit different. Family means, let's take a word, say appear. It says 7. But that could be appeared, appearing, appearance, right? That's the family. So how many times did this person use a word that came from that family? So, don't know how useful that would be for you, but it's there, and it breaks the categories down according to family. Alright, so I think the key thing there is how active are you using your academic word list words. That's what this will tell you. Plus, unfortunately, that's not working. I think it is useful to sort of get a sense of what Germanic and what Latin Greek amounts you're using. Let's go back to there, the other profilers. Now you've got the idea. So we looked at the classic, and now we're going to look at this one, the BNC 20. So British National Corpus, BNC. I've mentioned the BNC before. That's the collection of the 100 million words, where you can work out frequency and so on. Okay, the same story here. I'll Control A, select what's in the box and delete it, and then Control V. We'll just paste that essay in there and submit. Alright, so if you've arrived late, just get where you can see a screen. Okay, now, this does a slightly different thing. What this does, first thousand, second thousand, third thousand, fourth thousand, fifth, right? So remember our last one stopped there, didn't it? And then it said academic word list and remainder. What this is doing is it's breaking it down right up to 25,000. There's the graduate point, remember? 20,000 words. How many words is this essay using that's beyond graduate level? Alright, here's our percentage. Let's go back and have a look. 68% of the first 1,000, then to 80. So we get about 12 extra there. There you can see your percents, right? But this is cumulative adding up. So we get the 68 and we add 12 to that and we get 80. Then another 8. And it usually drops. There's a big drop there, see? Down to roughly 2. Now, a key point is where does it get to 95? Because 95%, I've mentioned this before, 95% is a bit of a magic mark in reading. If a person can understand 95% of the words in a text, they've generally got enough understanding of that text to guess those missing words. I mean, the words they don't know, right? But if it's lower than that, even a little bit lower, like 93%, it gets hard. And obviously 90, one word in 10, hard to guess. So this 95 points is a bit of a magic point. I mean, this is just what the reading research over and over again has indicated, that 95% is a bit of a critical moment. 1 in 20 words, basically. Still quite a lot of unknown words. But generally speaking, most readers can guess most words. Now, that point with this essay happens at 8,000 words, doesn't it? So that means a person with a vocabulary of 8,000 words will understand, you know, on average, 95% of that text. Right? And that means they'll probably be able to guess most of the rest and figure out the meaning at least. Now that's an interesting one that's an interesting result for this essay, because remember I've mentioned that according to previous research of diploma level, people start at 8,000. So what that means is that a person starting diploma on average could pick up this essay, and it's quite a complex essay. It's an academic paper published in an academic journal by 2 professors, and they would understand 95%, not all, but one word in 20 would be missing. Missing as far as comprehension goes, but they'd probably be able to guess. Okay, can we turn phones to silent, please? Just make sure they're on silent. Thanks. Yeah, so have a look with your essay when you put it in. Where's the 95% point? It's just a kind of a benchmark. It will my guess is it will probably fall earlier, because these guys are using, you know, pretty high vocabulary, native speaker professors. So it might, you know, drop back here. But that's some kind of gauge, roughly, of, and that's kind of pretty average for an academic piece, you know, around the 8,000 mark. So where do you fall in relation to that? It would be interesting to see. Okay, now you can see it's getting a lot less, isn't it, in percentages as we go down. And that's natural for even high vocabulary users. And when we get to 16,000, which is quite advanced, there's still actually, for this article, there are 4% of the text that are beyond 16,000. And there's only a couple of words here at the 20,000 mark. But yeah, you get to graduate level, and there's still 4% of words that are, you know, beyond that. So it's a fairly tricky piece. Off list. Basically 3 point whatever, isn't it? 3.7 something? 4? All right. No, 6.4, thank you. Okay, let's move down and we'll see the text. There's the text. And you can see, looks like Disneyland, lots of colours. But again, it's the same colouring as the first one. The key is this, for you, the blue. The blue is your first 1,000 words. So my point here is, if you get a low kind of score in the sense that you find, basically what I think you should use this for is, am I overusing these first, say, 3 bands? That's usually what tends to happen. That you might get like 75 here percent and 15 and 12, and so you end up with like 90% or more than 95% of your essay in here. Now obviously what you're wanting to do is push that up, isn't it? Up into this territory. So one thing I think the easy way to do it is look at your blue words, and we'll do it in a minute. Use Thesaurus.com, various synonym dictionaries. You can use your synonym function in Word, Microsoft Word. Have your Activator, probably Activator #1 as a hard copy resource, or if you've downloaded it onto your phone. And just use all various resources to push your blue words into some higher point. Right? Now you don't have to do it with every word. This is you'd kill the reader as well, wouldn't you? You kill yourself and kill the reader. It would be mass suicide. Let's have a look at how you might do it. It is true in the first place, brings about the results we expected. Now, first of all, okay, you've got your software that can help you. You've got your hardware, your book, but the wetware. Don't forget the wetware. The wetware. The brain. It's this wet, sloppy object, isn't it? That's the best resource of all, your wetware. Okay, using your wetware now, before you even reach for your activator or your word synonym dictionary, expected. Another synonym. Tricky one.
Assume?
You could. That would be an interesting one. Haven't thought of that. You could use that assume here.
Yeah.
Anticipate.
Anticipate?
Yeah, we anticipate it. Okay. So I don't know if that would naturally occur to you, but you see the point. Go through and just do all the ones that naturally occur. Let's do another one. Which all too often cancel the first. It's not. Profound negative consequences, most notably, which experienced the Maya. These civilizations collapsed. They experienced major collapses. Experienced. The civilization experienced collapse. The civilization
Witnessed?
Witnessed is nice.
Yeah.
Suffered, right. Like undergone, but just change the tense. Underwent. Okay, there's 3. Right. Now, if you want to, we could. I know this is a lot of work, but remember my story about the woman who took a term to write her essay, right? So imagine you've got your term to do this. Right? I think in conjunction, if we're, I'm just going to not Wordcount. Wordcount. Remember wordcount.org, not .com. You get something different. Wordcount.org. Not working. Oh, there it is. Yep. All right. Let's just take those words. Launch word count. I mean, you don't have to do this, but remember we have looked at this resource, and here's again this whole idea of now we're getting a certain number of resources. We can start to use them in conjunction, and they can kind of help each other, right? So, what were we looking at? Experience. Okay, thanks. So we had suffered. Here's the other star of the show, right? Okay, that pushes us up into the 2000 range. It's not a big jump, is it? But it's better than in the first. Underwent. All right. We're getting a better score here, aren't we? That helps. That's a nice one. But I reckon Walid might win the prize here.
Huh?
I reckon Walid might win the prize with witnessed. Any guesses? Is it more than 10,000? Less? All right, let's see. Less? All right, I'm surprised. Okay. All right, so which one might you pick there? Underwent. Yeah, underwent collapse. All right. See the point? See how you can work through this? Etc., etc. You just keep going. Now, what I would do is go through your if you feel you're not getting the sort of scores you want, and look, just do it anyway. You're going to get a better result. But what this will do is it will give you the words to work on, the blue. And notice I'm only picking about 1 in every 10 or 20. But just giving those few, it's like turbocharge, isn't it? Just turning on the turbo, kicking it up into the more interesting territory. Great vocabulary practice for you to try the wetware first, and if you can't think of anything, get out the activator. I'd probably use it in this order. Then maybe Thesaurus.com. Thesaurus.com. Remember we looked at it Friday? Now you just get up Thesaurus.com. Let's do it. Yeah.
Because when we do the paraphrase, like when we take a resource and then we paraphrase it through our essay,
Yeah.
and when we do that, if we
You
get
might
back
return
the-
to your original.
Yeah, so what,
Yeah, okay. Don't worry about that because the probability is relatively low and you've already changed the sentence so much that if you happen to have a word that's the same, I wouldn't worry about that. I think it's unusual that you... Yeah, it wouldn't add up to plagiarism.
okay.
Okay, so what did we have in there? We had... what did they say? Experience, didn't they? I think we're going to get kind of a bit of a weird one here because it's such a broad word. See, we get all these, this is not very helpful. We're getting all this sort of, I'm going to take that off. Practice. That, the problem here is that use of experience in this context is a very particular sort of meaning and it doesn't, it could relate to these ones, suffer. But it's not a very good one to use in Thesaurus. Yeah, none of these senses are really working for that one. So that's a tricky one. I don't think we can use it. Anyway, just, you know, do what you can there with your blue. You could, I mean, your other ones to keep your eye on are your green and your yellow. Crisis, catastrophe. You know, what's catastrophe? Well, hang on. Just keep that open. Catastrophe. Spelling right here. About 8,000? 12,000, okay. Alright, so you kick that one up as well. And so on. Now, if we look at this, you've got your breakdown there. Again, I'm just going to quicker get down to the... Alright, we see the same sort of thing here. Here, it goes straight to the types. A, 59 times. Remember these results, they're the same, aren't they, as before. We see the breakdown. But we see it for every band. Now, I think what's interesting is when you get past your first few bands, this is the interesting territory. Where do you see? See here, there's a kind of a, you can see a decline. But even at 9,000, see there's only one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there, 1. It's getting lower. But where's the sort of drop-off point? It's kind of, okay, there are some there and there's one there. It's like, that's the sort of point. I mean, there's one there. But that's the point where it sort of drops off, isn't it? I call it the cliff, you know, a cliff. Like. So roughly, this drop-off point happens around the 15,000 mark. That's pretty high. That's high. But here's what you should ask yourself. Where is your cliff? Where does your vocabulary... I mean, you might have 1 or 2 words beyond, but where's the point where it sort of mainly kind of comes to an end? Is that at 7,000? Is it at 12? Is it at 4? You know? Just where's your vocabulary edge? That's something to ask yourself. And if you did this work with your changing the blue or the yellow or the green and do a few hours work on that, put it back in. Where's the cliff now? I think you'll shift it if you do enough work on enough words. And over time what you'll find is, you know, 6 months later, a year later, just naturally your first draft, that cliff will probably just naturally move up. And I think doing this kind of work, this deliberate work in trying to advance the vocabulary will definitely push that cliff point further up just naturally, because you'll be doing this sort of extension exercise with vocabulary kind of all the time. Now here are your off-list words. What you tend to find with the off-list, have a look at that first line. What do you notice about the off-list? names. They're usually names. Countries, people's names, whatever. And in a way, they're sort of distorting the result, aren't they? Because they're not real words. Like, you know, if we